Rainbow Overload is the hardest mode in a game called One Night at Chica's Magic Rainbows, or ONaCMR for short. This is a fan game that tries to make the Chica's Magic Rainbow minigame from FNaF World into normal FNaF point-and-click gameplay. Now, let's take a look at Ro.
Hi.
This looks chaotic, doesn't it? I don't know how I'd explain this without going through the basics of it. Rainbow Overload, or Ro for short, is a harder version of a max mode in One Night at Chica's Magic Rainbows known as hard mode. So I'll explain hard mode first. Rainbow Overload is hard mode, but with 10 chips, which are essentially challenges. To start off explaining hard mode, I'll explain all the enemies. First, we have Chica's Magic Rainbow, or CMR as I'll refer to it for this video. CMR sits in the middle of your window, and yes, this is a window. It has a timer connected to it, which you'll see in the grass below CMR. This timer starts at 160 and slowly goes down by 1 each second, and if it manages to hit 0, you die. To prevent the timer from going down, you hover your cursor over CMR's face, which pauses the timer. This causes the time to stay stagnant for as long as your cursor is over CMR's face. On to the next character, which is Beam CMR. Beam CMR is a constant threat that resides on the top of your screen and shoots 3 rainbow beams going in different directions. 1 left, 1 middle, and 1 right. If you hover your cursor over any of these beams at any time during the night, you will die effectively, making this game a bullet hell. Next up, we have Mini CMR. 4 Mini CMR spawn, 1 at each corner of the screen. 3 of these 4 will be fake and 1 will be real. You can tell which one is real as they will be looking away from the center of the screen and instead at a corner. You have to click the real one to get rid of it. Once clicked, it will close its eyes and go away shortly. It cannot kill you in that state, but if you keep clicking it, then it will stay there, so do not click it. When Mini CMR is halfway to killing, it will give the voice line, and the real Mini CMR will half close its eyes as a warning, meaning you'll have to deal with it as soon as possible at that point, as its kill timer will be pretty close to killing it. Next up is Purple Geist, which is the door character of this game. You can turn to the area with the doors by clicking the button on the bottom of your screen. Behind you, there are 2 doors with arrow buttons to close the doors. Unlike regular FNaF, this game doesn't have power, and instead makes it so you can only have 1 door closed at any time. Purple Geist will always be behind one of the doorways. You have to shut the door on him before attacks. He never leaves the doors. He always just jumps between those 2 doors, and you'll constantly have to check him to make sure that the correct door is closed and that he's not in the open doorway. Next, we will explain the easiest characters of this night, which are the eyes. The eyes will constantly be going across the screen from the left to the right. They do not kill you if you hover over them, and instead, they block your clicks on things such as Mini CMR and the door closing buttons. They are really easy, but sometimes can definitely put you in bad situations if you risk actions for too long. So what I mean is if Mini CMR's kill timer is low and an eye blocks Mini CMR, then that is death. That sort of thing. Next up is Clock, which is an analog clock and has 12 hours on it. When you click the clock, it goes forward 1 hour, and you want to click it until the time on the clock matches the time it is in the night. Clock in hard mode only makes sure it's the right time every time the hour changes. This means you can just set clock shortly before the hour changes, and not many times per hour, because that wastes a lot of time. If it is on the wrong time when hour changes, clock will break and the timer will be changed to 3 on CMR. Here is the sound that means clock broke. Clock breaking is guaranteed death, assuming you aren't near the end of the night. There exists something known as clock RNG, which is when clock changes right before hour change, as clock can change each 10 to 20 seconds. So if clock changes right before the time change, you're dead. It's random when it changes. Thankfully, this unlivable RNG isn't common. I'd say like 5% of the time. And so the last mechanic clock has is overwind. Basically, if you wind clock past the current time of night, clock will break. Speaking of the nights in this game are 7 minutes and 30 seconds long, with each hour being 1 minute and 15 seconds. The last thing I will explain for hard mode is the black borders. Basically, in ONaCMR, this entire screen isn't taken up. So, there exists black borders on each side of the screen. Before, black borders didn't kill you. And when that was the case, you could cheese BeamCMR by going around it through the black borders. So they were changed to also be a threat and kill you. Now that every hard mode character has been explained, we can move on to the strategy for hard mode. Hard mode has a basic strategy. At the beginning of the night, you'll quickly want to check Purplegeist. Then you go to CMR side. For most of the night, you will have off time where you hover your cursor over CMR's face to keep its timer from moving. A great way to save time is to save time by quickly hovering over CMR after dealing with the other characters, as a lot of the time you can deal with someone like Mini CMR and lose no time on CMR by quickly flicking to CMR after you deal with it. Has to be under a second because that's the amount of time it takes for it to drop. Purplegeist always switches sides. So you'll want to have your cursor on the side of CMR's face where Purplegeist will next spawn. Mini CMR for most of the night is an indicator for when you should turn around and deal with Purplegeist. In hard mode, it will start off by you dealing with Mini, then Purplegeist. However, as the night goes on, these two switch a lot. So maybe, I don't know, this is just an example. It's really based on how you play when this changes, but 1 minute in, you start dealing with Purplegeist, then Mini CMR, and then like 2 minutes in, you start dealing with Mini, then Purplegeist again. This shifts a lot during the night, and it's based on how long it takes you to deal with Mini. So you'll have to get the feel for this yourself. And before every hour change, you'll want to quickly turn around and make sure clock is set to the correct time. You can use a timer to turn around right before hour change to know the amount of time you have before hour changes. That is essentially the strat of hard mode. Hard mode is basic compared to the nightmare that is Rainbow Overload. Let's start with the easiest of the 10 chips, known as Mini Double Click, which is as basic as it sounds. All you need to do is click Mini CMR 2 times to get rid of it instead of 1. This is basically the filler chip, and all the other ones are much harder and make actual changes to the gameplay. Next up is what I consider the third easiest chip, known as Window Curtains. We will get to the second easiest chip later, as it buffs one of the hardest chips. Window curtains causes the window to have curtains. These curtains close every 13 to 30 seconds. The curtains being closed causes you to not be able to see BeamCMR's beams, see CMR, and doesn't allow you to hover your cursor to pause CMR's timer. To open the curtains, you simply click anywhere on the curtains. They aren't difficult, but can throw you off. Next up is Hitbox Smaller, which makes CMR's hitbox shrink a bit. That's it. At least it isn't Laser Pointer. Next up is Clock OG. Clock OG makes it check if it's on the correct time every 10 to 15 seconds instead of upon hour change. You will always want to set it correctly when you see it wrong when this chip is active. This chip's purpose is it removes only having to change clock once before hour change. Clock working this way makes it so when hour changes, You'll want to turn clock and set it to the correct time immediately. This is because clock can check what it's set to right after time change, and sometimes it checks at a time that is impossible to set clock in. This is Rose Clock RNG. It is similar to hard mode's RNG, except this comes after hour change. In row, it is still recommended to either listen to the row music as a cue or use a timer to know when hour change is about to come up to quickly deal with clock. Clock in row acts as a controlled CPS test, as you'll constantly have to click it really fast and precise to set it to the correct time. The next chips I'm about to mention are the chips that are the main source of row's difficulty. All of them have a major role. To start, we have Lay's Flamin' Hot Dill Pickle Potato Chips. Jokes aside, next is Rainbow Music Box. This chip makes CMR's timer go from hovering to pause to hovering to make the timer go up. The thing is, it also makes CMR's timer go down much quicker. Instead of the 160 seconds you would have, you now only have 24 seconds, but you can recharge that 24 seconds. The cap is 160 for this, which is 24 seconds. You want to have it at 160 as much as you can. The other thing it does is it changes the effect of clock breaking from being set to 3 seconds to instead cause the time to go down without allowing you to recharge it. Next is Rainbow Hyperactive, which makes it so CMR is no longer in stationary. Instead of standing still in the middle, it sways left and right, meaning you no longer can have your cursor at one area and will now need to track CMR space with your mouse while surviving beam CMR. Overall, tracking CMR while not touching beam makes things a lot harder and causes you to have much less time on CMR, and it is very easy to die to the beams. Next is the chip that buffs Rainbow Hyperactive, which is Rainbow Faster. This chip makes CMR sway left and right quicker than it did before, making it harder to track. The other thing it does is it makes the basic CMR timer go down faster. Music Box is unaffected by Rainbow Faster. The next big chip is known as Door Repair. Now, each door starts with 100%. Each time Purplegeist leaves from a door, that door will lose 20%. If either door reaches 0%, Purplegeist will kill you. To fix the doors, new buttons have been added above the doors that when you hold, fix the doors by 20%. Speaking of Purplegeist, next is Purplegeist Double. Basically, now there will always be a Purplegeist in each door. However, one of them is real and the other is fake. You can tell which one is real based on which one has the idle animation. Also, Purplegeist no longer switches doors each time he attacks a door. He can attack the same door as many times in a row as he wants. Now, we get into a bit of the hard to explain specifics. So when Purplegeist moves, you can immediately tell that he moved and whether the one in the open door is real or fake. Purplegeist, if it's a fake one in an open door, will put like 2 Purplegeists in the same door for a frame, the real and the fake one. If it is a real Purplegeist after changing doors, it'll just turn around and start doing its animation. I'll show it in slow motion in real time to show you what I mean. The final chip in row is known as Find Characters. The hours 1, 2, 3, and 4 all add 1 character into row. 1 a.m. adds Tyke, which is the easiest of the bunch. He'll grow a tree on the right side of the window, and when it's fully grown, you click it to cut it down. This one is easy as it is in CMR's path, so you barely have to move your mouse to click it. It also only attacks a few times per night. The only real way they can kill you is if you forget about it. Next, at 2 a.m., DD is added. When DD spawns, or Pearl will spawn on one of the two sides of the office and you'll have to find it and click it. At 3 a.m., Balloon Boy is added. He will spawn on the left side of the window indicated by the BB hello or hi sound effect. When there, you'll need to click and drag a balloon to him from the balloon barrel to get rid of him. Finally, at 4 a.m., ANMDO is added. He'll randomly spawn 4th walls and you'll need to move your mouse out of the way of the 4th wall. They spawn on the left and go to the right of the screen. They do have RNGs. If you're too far left of the screen and one spawns in a path that would kill you, there isn't really avoiding it. Thankfully, 4th wall doesn't attack too much and is quite small, so this won't happen too many times. He is only active 4 and 5 a.m., which is, compared to how long the night is, a very small part of the night. That's every row mech explained, so now I'll explain some strategy and stuff that makes it so hard. So let's start with what makes it so hard. The most obvious is Rainbow Hyperactive, Rainbow Music Box, and Beam CMR together is a brutal combination. You have to track Rainbow Hyperactive really well while dodging Beam CMR's attacks. This makes you really refine your mouse movements, as if you have one wrong slip up, it's game over. Music Box also making time tight forces you to do really well. Adding to this, door repair is a really big one. Since door repair takes so long to repair doors, you'll have to manage to make time up from CMR, meaning normally if you don't have door repair on, you're just kind of maintaining the time, but door repair loses you like 50 seconds, so you have to use the time between door repairs to get that time back. This is a very tight thing. This is where a lot of Row's difficulty come from. You need insanely good mouse movements to do this. Purple Geist Double makes you stare at Purple Geist for a second or so to see if the one you're looking at is real or fake. Hitbox Small makes you get more precise and makes it so you have less time on CMR because of that. Find characters aren't hard mechanics. However, due to the nature of CMR's timer, they end up boosting difficulty a lot. You need to have insane mouse movements to deal with them really quickly to save as much time as possible. The main two are DD and BB, since both take a little bit to deal with hurting your time. Due to this, 4 to 5 a.m., you don't really ever make it back up to 160. Instead, you have to fight for survival and keep time as high as you can while dealing with the chaos that is Row. The lowest my timer got on my completion was 1. The other Victor, Chisuno, never really had to get that low, but still really low. The most valuable resource in Row, and the main cause of its difficulty, is the CMR timer. A different combo that can be annoying is BB with curtains. As for BB, you'll want to deal with them immediately when you turn around from the door section if you hear him spawn. Normally, curtains are a reaction time test. However, if you turn around and immediately grab a balloon to go to deal with BB and the curtain is closed, it can be tricky. You don't want to let go of the balloon, meaning if curtains are closed, you'll basically have to know where beams are and go around them without being able to see them. Another combo is Pearl and Beam CMRs. A lot of the time, Pearl will spawn in the area where Beam shoots, meaning that you'll have to click Pearl while going through the Beam CMR hit area. Clock RNG and 4th wall will kill quite a handful of runs also. Most characters in Row have short kill timers, and you'll basically want to deal with things as soon as you see them. All of this combines to make Row extremely brutal due to how tight it is with CMR timer, how easy it is to miss a character or put off dealing with them for too long, and how small movements can cause death. To beat Row, you'll need to play insanely well. Next, I will explain the small amount of strategy that exists. So for door repair, I found that dealing with one door at a time when it was at 40% and making it go all the way to 100% was good, as if both reach 40, you can let one of them reach 20 and repair the other one, and then repair the one that was on 20 the next go around. The reason I did that was it played better into the mode, I believe, as normally by the point you'd reach 100%, mini CMR would have spawned and Purple Geist would have moved. So I just played like that. You can charge doors more, like up to 100% from 20 both doors, but I think it's harder to get time back. Now, we talk about the rad strat. So at the beginning of the night, you can easily repair doors to 100 and still have time on CMR, but nearing the end of the night, normally things get pretty rough in that aspect. So you end up not being able to repair doors all the way to 100% because it would most likely cause death to CMR. So you have to do smaller amounts of charging. So like 20, 40%, 60%. It depends on how much time you have. In my run, I literally had both doors reach 20% near the end. So when I play row, I normally play like this. So you track CMR, then when mini CMR spawns, immediately go for that, then turn around and deal with Purple Geist, then do clock. This has the thing I mentioned earlier where you'll often need to switch between mini first and Purple Geist throughout the night. Then turn around. However, a lot of the time something else will pop up, such as find cares or door repair, which you'll have to deal with when you see them after dealing with the main things. You have to incorporate them into what you're doing. With BB, you deal with them immediately if on the window side, and if you can't respond while on the door side, you deal with them immediately upon turning around. Clock, you have to be really on top of time change. Thankfully, when a find character is added, it gives you new challenger text as hour changes, so that is a great indicator of the 1 to 4 a.m. changes, giving an obvious cue. However, at 5 a.m., no characters added, so this text doesn't appear, so you have to be more aware of the time late 4 a.m. to deal with clock quickly enough. Most of row comes down to adjusting to the situation you are currently in quickly to not lose time. This is basically all the strategy to row. Most of it comes down to playing really well. It is much more of a skill test than a knowledge test. Row is a beast of a mode, and it took me 100 hours and Shisuno 90 plus hours to beat. I checked, and I had 14 5 a.m. deaths over the span of my row grind. It is not easy, and if you wish to attempt it, I wish you the best of luck. I'll put the downloads in the description for One Night at Chica's Magic Rainbows. While I was making this video, I asked Diamond Ace to make a way for me to showcase each row character separately. He did, and then we realized more could be done with that. So it was made into Row Practice Mod, and Row Practice Mod allows you to choose the characters and chips active, along with options to show the CMR hitbox, an option to give you HP, which HP makes you not one-shot to beam CMR beams, fourth walls, and the black borders, and an option to remove clock RNG. This practice mod has been put at the bottom of the One Night at Chica's Magic Rainbow page, so that it will help a lot of you if you plan to play this mode. Now, even though row is so hard, it is my favorite mode. There's something so satisfying about beating something that should probably be impossible, and row gets consistent over time as you grind it. I PB'd quite often playing it. However, it is unfun when you're in the section where you die to beam CMR constantly. The practice mod HP should help with that, but after that part, it is pretty fun as you focus more on row running, which is what I call keeping CMR's timer high. But anyways, I think that wraps up this video. If you want to try row, I will wish you the best of luck a second time. Anyways, make sure you subscribe and see ya.